economy afloat. The largest of these measures was the bipartisan CARES Act. As chairman, I intend to focus this committee's attention and resources on its core mission: to ensure our government is working for the American people in an efficient manner. Agencies guard taxpayer funds from fraudsters and ineligible participants, and political leadership be held accountable for bad consequences of their policies. Oversight, nothing good. We owe it to the American people to get to the bottom of the greatest theft of American taxpayer dollars in history. We must identify where this money went, how much ended up in the hands of fraudsters or ineligible participants, and what should be done to ensure that it never happens again. Dollars were wasted by bureaucrats whose only priority.
While I remain optimistic that this hearing can meaningfully explore ways to ensure that taxpayer dollars go where intended, I confess I'm troubled that some of our colleagues seem to want to cherry-pick facts and deploy distorted figures to attack the underlying legitimacy of the programs themselves, the programs that were a lifeline and salvation for millions of businesses and families across the country.
Cover illegally obtained COVID-19 taxpayer.
Republicans have claimed that Democrats on this committee and in the Biden administration neglected to conduct meaningful oversight of these programs. The record demonstrates these assertions are baseless. Democrats have systematically ferreted out fraud, waste, and abuse in pandemic relief, although we all can certainly be doing a much more effective job, and that's what this hearing should be about. It was Congress which acted responsibly and swiftly.
Agencies should have been much better prepared in order to prevent fraud in the first place. We worked with the Congress back in 2016, and the Congress passed the Fraud Reduction and Data Analytics Act, which required agencies to implement GAO's fraud risk framework to help prevent fraud in the first place. Agencies were slow to implement this legislation and therefore were not prepared properly when the coronavirus emergency occurred. The main causes of the widespread fraud that
as our pandemic oversight work has demonstrated, far more can and should be done to protect taxpayer money. For example, earlier this week, we issued a fraud alert, finding that over 69,000 questionable Social Security numbers were used to obtain $5.4 billion in pandemic loans and grants. This alert resulted from PRAC data scientists using our analytics platform to assess over 33 million EIDL and PPP loan applications.
Myself and Ranking Member Raskins, please.
SBA's central focus on getting PPP loans issued as quickly as possible at the outset of the pandemic, based solely on an applicant's self-certification of eligibility, resulted in substantial fraud, as well as SBA issuing 57,000 loans worth $3.6 billion to entities that were already on the government's do not pay list, a list SBA didn't bother to cross-check. The federal government needs more robust cross-agency data sharing agreements to improve program administration, reduce improper payments and identity fraud, and better prepare before the next crisis hits.
Do you all swear or affirm that the testimony you are about to give is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
It will be a while before the full extent of fraud is known.
Right.
As I mentioned in my statement, there's been over 1,000 people who have pled guilty or been convicted. There's over 600 charges still pending against people. The SBA IG has 536 active investigations right now. The Department of Labor IG is opening up 100 new cases every week. So this is going to go on for a while. There are definitely indications of widespread fraud, but it's impossible to estimate right now what the full extent will be.
Respectful of everyone's 5 minutes. I was telling some of the